So I'm going to give the status update about Supernode 3 we had a couple of these updates so far, so this is the third one, and it's kind of the current status of the 6 to 9 months journey and what you can do with it now. So as some of you might be aware, Supernode 3 is this site in Industry City, Brooklyn. It's going to be our second major fiber-connected supernode versus just a wirelessly connected supernode. It's a data center in Brooklyn. It's, I think, pretty much the only one in Brooklyn, more or less. And it has quite a few internet providers and other networks. It consists of, the goal of it is to have 3 networks, or 3 antennas, north, west, and south antennas. It's going to have fiber and power to the rooftops. So it's going to be the current, modern, best possible architecture for a supernode that we have. It has a full rack of power, or a full rack of in the data center with power. And it's going to be serving community servers, community co-location systems for people, for members to be able to put servers in it. The timeline, I last presented this in April, and it was kind of, this is a shortened version of it. We had a lot of trouble with it. We signed the contract, but we still had no power. Then we had no power and no roof access, and then no roof access, but then our manager quit there, our contact, and then we had no roof access, but we had power, and then we pulled wires, and then we mounted antennas, but we still had no internet, and that was 2 months ago. So this is what it looked like 2 months ago. It was just some fiber and a computer, but all turned off, no power, and very sad. In the 2 months ago, or 3 months ago now, we pulled wires to the rooftop. This is kind of what it looks like. On the left, this is the antenna positions and the building kind of general roof look layout. And over here is in one of the 1920s elevator rooms that we're pulling wires in. And this was the great efforts that went into it, drilling into the walls, and so on. That's what it looked like a couple months ago. So we're 6 months in, if you will, or not actually really 9 months, but 6 months since the contract started. We have gear, we have servers, we have power, we have members who want to put their servers in the racks, but we still had no internet. Until a few weeks ago, we finally had a nice donation from a local fiber provider called Pilot Fiber. They donated a 40 gigabit internet service, which is 40 times more than we have at Supernode 1. They also offered an additional 40 at Supernode 1, so we're going to pretty much 80 to 100x our entire bandwidth available to the mesh generally. This is a very generous donation. It's worth about $5 or $7, maybe $8,000 a month to us. So thank you to Pilot Fiber. Extremely generous, and this is what it looks like. A 40 gigabit connection looks like. It looks just like a 1 gig and a 10 gig. It's very exciting, little green lights. So if you ever wondered, that's what it looks like. So the updated version of this is our rack now. We have these highlighted different features where we have 12 fibers to the meet me room, 6 to the rooftop. We have 10G fibers available for members to plug into servers in the rack. We also have 10G copper available for members to plug into their rack, and 1G as well. We have a router or 2. We have high power to the roof, and we also have a shelf if you want to put a Raspberry Pi or something like that as well. Down below, we already have 2 members racked. So there's their servers there, and any of your servers, if you want, as a NYC Mesh member, you can put one right above it. So what's left? We have there's some things, there's always going to be a couple extra things to do, but 90% of the work is done. What's left is the south mounting pole is needed, or the south pole is needed. That's an antenna facing southwards, and Jason is going to drill and mount that tomorrow, wherever Jason is. I don't see him. Oh, there he is back there. Yep. So and Duncan, yes. So tomorrow. A 40 gig router is still needed. Right now, that 40 gig internet is plugged into a 10 gig router, sort of, because that's easier and faster. We already have it, and it's already 10 times more than we need, which right there we need 0. So that's enough. There's a few minor parts and pieces. Another power panel is needed because we've run out of plugs already. People need to start using it so we can recover the cost. But up next, the power panel, especially for Raspberry Pis or any other small servers, some wire management, which Logan's going to do very soon, the 40 gig router, which I'm doing, VPN, and also a Supernode 1 10 gig plus connection, also from Pilot. So hooray. And how can you use it? Well, it is an active supernode. It's online. You can mount or you can install in the area, or the Park Slope area, Industry City area, whatever it's called. Look at the map. South Slope. I'm not from Brooklyn, so those areas. But these SSIDs, north and west, are already on. South will be up soon. And if you want to do a point-to-point, if there's like a hub building in the area, kind of like we have in the East Village, it's extremely easy to do a point-to-point from this roof to any of those roofs, as long as they can see each other. So that's a very high possibility. What else can you do? You can VPN to it if you're a hub or a kiosk. You can't today, but that's coming right now. So it's a thing that's actively in progress. And we're going to hopefully switch Brooklyn over to it soon, so there's a lot more bandwidth in Brooklyn. And you can also rack a server. We're suggesting $50 per month per rack unit for members to put a server in there. Again, this is a suggested donation, just like our regular member subscription, but please do pay it if you can, or please do pay it all the time, if you can. Jolly, could you turn it down a little bit? Thanks. So this includes a public connection if you want one, and or a mesh connection, and or BGP. Basically any networking service that can be connected, we can connect you on there. At fiber or copper. If we run out of fiber ports, we'll just buy some more, or you can throw an extra $40 in and buy more. It also includes 1 amp of power, and it's very important to note at 220 volt. At 220 volt. Okay. So don't bring a Raspberry Pi with a 110 volt plug or a tiny server that you got off your floor. It's going to get fried. So that's an important feature of SuperNode 3. And thanks to a lot of people, Jason especially, from going many times, learning some new skills about drilling a certain way on the roof, doing epoxy and bolts and stuff like that, and everyone who went with him, Tony, Brian, Zach, Olivier, Jonathan, and Logan. Pilot Fiber for this huge donation. Wizard is hungry for donating servers and that Nexus 3000 switch that has the 40 gig ports. That's another $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 donation. Peter for the server that's actually running the 10 gig. Tony and Brooks for putting servers and signing up. Those are their servers in there. And all of you guys for continuing to donate. That pays for all of this. That's it for me. Cool, thanks. I think we have to keep moving along because we're low on time now, but if anyone has one question or something extremely relevant, I think we can do it. Or we can do it all afterwards. No one, any burning questions at the moment? No, okay, good. So we'll move on. Thank you.
Switch back to
Yeah.
official laptop.
Oh.
You heard it, I thought it was falling.
Nope. Okay, here you are.
Where do you press so it goes?
Present, top right.
Yes, sir?
Yep.
Very good. Hi, my name is Olivier. I guess you all know me.
Mike.
I'm Olivier, you all know me. If you don't, I'm on Slack. I speak too much on Slack, so I guess everybody heard of me. I wanted to talk about money, in fact, and the cost of the installs. And even though Zach said we are receiving a lot of donation, which is true, we're also spending quite a bit of money. But to start, a little bit of history. The first meetup was in March 2012. Jim, who's here, was part of it. There was around 30 people who decided to start the mesh. It started a little bit differently. I'll let you read, but they wanted to use Raspberry Pi and create a small mesh with routers, and there was all kind of issues. So at some point they moved to TP-Link, and at some point they get a grant from ISOC, and that's how they were able to start SN1. So $30,000 was not small money. And from there, they started to connect people using off-the-shelf equipment like the light beam from Ubiquiti. which had a small drawback. One of it, it's created a star like radius. There was no mesh. Everybody was connecting to supernode 1. So at the end of 2018, approximately, we decided to install the omnitic. And why the omnitic is because when two omnitic are close enough to each other, they are able to connect to each other, and then they create a mesh. So at some point, if there is enough omnitic connected or installed, we could install just the omnitic and no light beam to a hub, which we did in 2 or 3 cases, right? Which also lowered the case. So where I wanted to come to is to the cost of the equipment. Today, an installation cost for the hardware $230. At some point, we decided, or the mesh decided, that the install cost $110, which means that the $20 donation takes 6 months to cover the cost of the hardware. During 6 months, we're basically not, I don't want to say make money, but we're not bringing money into the coffer to be able to expand the network, install hubs, and things like that. So one idea is on the website to publish the real cost, $230, which is the equipment. And if people are willing to pay the full cost, but leave the $110, so people who can't afford can still be able to join the mesh, but then it will just take longer for them to pay over the $20 to reimburse the cost of the equipment. That's one idea. I think we're going to do that, but unless somebody else has a different idea, we can talk about it. Of course, when we install a site a node where there is 2 apartments, it goes a little bit faster because it doesn't double the requirement of equipment. If some places we install 3 or 4, it's even better. On Jefferson, it's a good place. We installed 4 nodes, but there are 9 apartments connected to it. So that's a good investment if we want. So that's how it looks today, $110 for the equipment. We are suggesting to change that to $230, but leave a box or a way to change it to $110 if we want to, so people can choose. This is what I've been trying to do, and to follow the revenue, the donation. Today in May, we get 2,600 in donation. It's increasing, fortunately, but it's only about 55% of the people who are connected that pay. So there is about 45% of Mesher who are not contributing to the donation. If we look at the expenditure, SN1 cost per month, $875. We still have to pay for the roof access, so we rent the space. We also rent the space at SN3, so we do have a total about 1,700 that we have to pay every month. So if you think about the 2,600 we get every month, some of it has to pay for the omnitic and the light beam that we installed. So yeah, right now our funds are shrinking. The org meeting last time was about 8,000 in the bank. Today we have 5,000 in the bank. So one way is to stop installation and wait until the bank goes back up. But even SN3, we have cost. The pole that we installed is $300 per pole, more or less. We were supposed to get one for free, but somebody else took it. So we do have cost, unfortunately, and we need to be careful about the way we manage the money. That's it.
In the mic. Olivia, is there any way on the Omnitic installs to be, right now we're installing an Omnitic on every install that we do. Is there any way to be more strategic about deployment of Omnis? And since going back to an apartment, you know, installing an Omni from a light beam is only, that takes 10 minutes. You unplug one wire, you plug another wire in, and kind of, it may take more work and more trips, but may kind of be a more conservative use of resources?
I think it would be good if we can go back to the install we did and try to find out more apartments in the building or willing to connect to. This would be cost effective. The idea of using Omnitic is to really be part of the mesh. If you just connect with a light beam, you're not contributing to the network. You're just connecting and you use the internet. It's nice for you, but you're not helping your neighborhood to expand. So the idea of using the connecting with, or we can maybe find cheaper than the Omnitic. I don't know, it's pretty cheap for what it does. But using the Omnitic is a way to expand the network. It's a way to decentralize the network and not having just a hub and people using it. But yeah, going back to the installer where they are, where there is Omnitic, and try to be able to connect more in the building. I think we tried in some cases. I don't know if we were successful.
Hi. For the donation page, maybe adding a couple more options on there between 20 to 50 and 50 to 100 might make it a little bit more inclusive for people.
Yeah, Olivier, I'd first like to just thank you for raising this as an issue. I think it is really an important thing to confront.
Yeah.
I would like to propose that we have a kind of separate meeting about this, maybe because I think there are a number of different options, and balancing our desire to be inclusive and affordable. And I think the price jumping that much for everyone would kind of challenge that aim that we have, and also growing the network in the right way is something that we really need to balance. But obviously, I don't think we have time for it tonight. But no, I would love to be part of a.
But this is the reason why we were thinking to publish the real cost, but leave the 110.
Yeah, I think that's one good option. But there are others, I think, as well, like what we did on Jefferson. Sure. If there are people who have their neighbors involved, maybe we suggest a different price, or yeah, or there's maybe a range of. Again, then you have to balance sort of clarity versus
simplicity. Also,
so
the idea of 110 was a flat fee for all, and there's no kitchen calculation when you do an install.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ideas that we could further discuss. So if other people are interested, it would be great to convene, I think, a special meeting for that, maybe. Thanks for bringing it up.
Open the laptop.
Oh, sorry. I'm done, that's why.
I'll just say that it's not beyond possibility that we could go back to ISOC for some more money. It's a couple of years now.
We heard you.
Yeah, which one is this? Hi, I'm Scott. I presented at our last org meeting to give a kind of update on where we're at with developing an organization, making bylaws. Hopefully this pulls up in a second. Oh, thanks, Zach. So I wanted to give a little update of where we were at in that process and some of what we have heard back from folks. So as you can see, the kind of process so far, most of this is where we were at last month when I presented. They were shared with the Mesh community on May 8th. We asked for feedback by May 24th. We got a number of submissions of feedback, not a huge number, but people certainly did participate, and I will get into that in just a moment. Some next steps that kind of include from here moving forward is finalizing the bylaws, which are pretty much there. We have a final draft that will hopefully go out very, very shortly in the next couple of days, and it should be available online. We can even just post it to Slack right after this meeting so people can take a look. Spoiler alert, not that much changed, but we did change things to reflect the feedback that we received. And then moving forward, we need to file a certificate of incorporation with New York State. That's a relatively simple 4-page form that we just have to hand in with a small fee to be able to register with the state. And then we'll begin the federal 501c3 application process. That can take 6 months or so. It's mostly just the IRS taking 6 months to get back to us to be able to file that. And then hopefully we return to business as usual. We received a number of comments, most notably comments centered on what a voting member is of NYC Mesh, since we will be a membership organization, it's called. But we did receive a number of other comments, and I'm more than happy to share those comments with everybody. I didn't want to attach them with a specific name to just protect anybody who thought that they were submitting in confidentiality. But nonetheless, I'm happy to share what the comments are. One comment was regarding board terms, changing that from 2 to 3 years, for example, so that you only have a third of the board rotating every year. Most of it's not particularly interesting stuff, but I am more than happy to discuss it one-on-one with anybody after this meeting or to answer any questions. Here's some other feedback that we got, some stuff about how to fill board vacancies, meetings, giving it proper advance notice for any meeting that a board may have, making sure that board has representations from different boroughs that NYC Mesh is present in, some tightening up around language about how we amend our bylaws or certificate of incorporation. In all honesty, most of the changes were incredibly minor and probably not of great interest or great change to how our organization will operate in the future. The most heated thing and what I really wanted to make sure that I was sharing with everybody was a definition of what is a voting member, since this seemed to attract the most feedback and the most robust discussion on our Slack page. This is what I was able to come up with. And I think that this is what I'm proposing, that this is what we move forward to. I really think it most closely reflects what the conversation that we're having is. That is namely that a voting member of NYC Mesh, and I remind everybody that a voting member simply means that you vote once a year on who will appear on the board to represent you. It means that you will also vote if we're changing our bylaws or our certificate of incorporation. You have to either vote yay or nay about whether you would like to see those changes made. And it allows you to be able to run for the board, to be able to serve on committees of sorts or anything like that. It is not a super active role, though obviously we invite everybody to be as active as they would like, but nonetheless, just to reiterate, most of the work that's done for NYC Mesh occurs in meetings like this, not in a boardroom. So this is the definition that we're able to come up with. One is you're an individual residing in a domicile physically connected to a node. It's very legalese language, but it basically means that you are living in a home with a node, that you are inside of a building with public Wi-Fi access points that are connected to a node. The purpose of that is making sure that our NYC Mesh community members who are in a place like Saratoga or in a large development are going to be ensured that they can be voting members. And just because you live in a large development where it may not be possible to wire your individual apartment, but there's access points on your hallway, you're still able to participate as a voting member of NYC Mesh. It was very important to people that potential nodes, so I would like to join NYC Mesh. I am not currently on it, but I have signed up to be a potential node. I want to be a part of the organization. I'm really excited. I've committed myself to joining the organization, and when the network extends to where it is that I live, I look forward to connecting and being an active participant. And then finally, allowing people to be able to volunteer with the organization for an amount of time specified by the board. I included that language specifically because as an individual who lives in a large building that will never have a node on its roof, so this may be self-interested, and so I invite your comments on it, but I could fill out a form online saying that I'm a potential node, but both you and I, we will all know that my building will never be a actual node, and it seems kind of like promoting a farce, if you will, about what it is. And so maybe we can create a volunteer requirement that individuals like that, if they so choose, can volunteer. Having a volunteer requirement also very much helps us because as a 501c3, when we make reports at the end of the year, we actually can value what volunteer time is. That has an actual value to it, and we can actually report that, and it really looks good on our final financial statements for the year. So supporting volunteerism in the organization actually pays off in many ways. And then simply, I wanted to share with everybody how I defined a node on the NYC Mesh network. We had to come up with a definition for what a node actually legally means within our bylaws. This is our working definition of it now, and I think it should cover just about everything. I think that that's everything that I have to present on. I think our next step is to file a certificate of incorporation and hopefully be able to move forward in the next week or two. Questions, concerns? Yes, sir.
Hi, this is kind of my first time here at the Mesh Meetup, but I've been in your Slack for probably about 2-3 months now. And I had kind of, when you guys had started this discussion on the org development, I kind of had sent a lot of feedback in on the Slack one day. I do have some questions based on what I heard from Olivier. Did I say his name properly? And from what I'm hearing from you, it seems as though the community is moving more toward a corporate structure for the idea of being able to attract more grant money, essentially more capital into the organization to be able to scale and expand.
So we had presentations on this 2 months ago where we kind of discussed the reasons for going into an org. That was one small reason about that. In order to become a 501c3 in the state of New York, you have to have bylaws by law. You also have to have a board by law. So in order to operate as an entity in of ourselves in any capacity, whether it's applying for grants or whether it's simply being taken seriously in a room or being able to govern ourselves in the way that we choose, that actually requires having bylaws and the organization in this. So grants certainly play into it, but that's only one aspect of, I think, a broader kind of movement that we were discussing.
Right, and I gather that, but based on what I'm seeing in the numbers and based on where it seems like you guys are moving, it seems like capital is going to become kind of an important thing here shortly. So I wonder, have you guys considered from an organizational standpoint, things like internal control policies and procedures, dual signatory authorization on your bank accounts, things like that, annual audits on your financials, these are things that are going to be very important when you're seeking a grant. And I've wondered if you had thought about those things. Have you guys talked about those things? What steps are you putting in place? How's your board of directors going to be governed? Not just from a bylaw standpoint, but do you guys have a separate manual that you're going to create that governs specifically what types of committees you're going to have, how those committees are going to operate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And will those things be publicly available on your website or on GuideStar or any place like that?
Sure. So the board doesn't exist yet, so there's nobody to vote on what committees would exist at a board or to set forth any of those procedures about how the board would operate. There are a number of things in the bylaws which I definitely invite you to read, like having signing authority and other sorts of things that are, I think, standard good business practices, and we've really tried to incorporate those. Our bylaws are very much based off of recommendations around Nonprofit Center as well as New York State and other organizations and attorney groups that make recommendations about this. So I think building in fiscal responsibility is very important and something that we want to do. The board does not yet exist, so there's I'm not gonna try to make documents for a board that can't yet approve them.
Fair enough.
If that makes sense.
That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. But I would very much invite you to be a part of that process. It sounds like you have great experience in putting some of those things together, and certainly fiscal responsibility is something we're going to have to be concerned with. Any other questions? Thanks so much, everybody. I think now this can close. Anybody else?
Did somebody want to present on the database?
Oh.
You say James?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm James.
Yes.
Well, do you have?
I have your PDF.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. I'm James. I'm a UX and web designer, and I just joined Mesh at the last hackathon, and I'll just very, very briefly talk about the design work that I did for the node directory, which is a backend directory that our users can utilize to help find nodes, help understand how nodes are connected to each other, and learn about people who are also on the Mesh network as well. So this is the very quick design that I mocked up for the database team. It is a very simple directory. It has a map on it that shows all the nodes. It has a node list, and it has a search bar. And right now we're working, it's very bare, wireframed. We're just working on a search functionality, and we're working on editing functionality so that we could edit the information in any given node. So if you were to search a node, it would affect the list on the side. It would affect the map. And you can also go into any node at this point and edit information. This is a very closed network that we have right now. There aren't going to be a lot of people who are using this. So there aren't a lot of privacy laws or a lot of privacy layers that help to keep people out. Well, so basically we want to have a little bit of feedback right now from the group. And maybe today during the meetings, and know what information we should post on this and what information we should keep away, hide. So maybe users' emails or that kind of thing. So we'll be looking for feedback on that. But this is the way it's going to look. It's following our Mesh brand style guide, which is what I referenced when I was creating it. And if you guys have any questions about it, or if you want to talk to me about it, just come up and chat with me after this presentation. And right now, that's what I got for you. But if you have any questions, let me know right now.
Will you come to the outreach working group after?
I don't know what that is, but I'll be there.
It's where we do grades.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Planning on coming to the software development thing on Thursday?
This Thursday?
Yes.
Maybe. I might be able to make that.
8 p.m.
Where?
Not sure yet.
Okay.
Working on it.
But yeah, just to conclude, this is a very basic wireframe directory, and hopefully it'll become a really good staple, very good cornerstone of the organization. It's a really good way for everybody who's in the organization to understand all the information, understand where everything is, and really visually map out the mesh. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you everybody for listening to these presentations, and hope it was interesting and informative. And of course, if you have questions, talk to the people who presented. There's also 2 breakout groups, as Shay mentioned. There's going to be a technical one and the outreach one, which are in the 2 conference rooms around the corner here. So please feel free to attend those. Thank you.